Hey, good evening, Top fans. It's Bill from TopFanRivalry here with another TopFanRivalry Clubhouse. Tonight, you'll notice normally in the evenings I have the dark background, but I put the white background on tonight because I want you to see the green shirt, the color of money, which seems to be like the epic of the last couple of days, and we'll get around to teams spending $1 billion over the next 10 years and whatnot. Want to welcome Jamie in, who is our resident Dodger fan, Jackson, who's our resident world champion Atlanta Braves fan. I noticed the hats. Yes, I had to say that. And Dave, our resident White Sox fan. So welcome everybody. We're going to kind of go around the horn real quick, and we're going to talk about what our team has done or hasn't done. And Jamie, we're going to start with you tonight. Tell us a little bit about what the Dodgers have or haven't done, and then we'll get into some theories in a sec. Go ahead.
So the five players that I'm currently watching were Scherzer, Seager, Muncy, Kershaw, and Taylor. Muncy only because I'm worried about his injury. However, Scherzer and Seager gone, and Kershaw and Taylor are still up in the air. So I'm just hoping that we keep Kershaw and Taylor, and then we don't gut our team completely. So that's the Dodger lowdown for right now.
I have a sneaky suspicion you're 50% right on that, but we'll talk about that in a second. Jackson, down to the world champs. What had they done or have not done yet?
Well, they signed a catcher in Manny Pena a couple of weeks ago. I don't know if anyone saw that. Solid pickup. He had like 14 home runs in like 70-something games. So some good pop from the backup catcher. He's a good fielder. They signed Kirby Yates today, who's recovering from Tommy John. Good low-risk gamble. The first year is only $1 million, and then there's an option for $6 million next year. So if he comes back and is the dominant force he was in 2019/2018, it'll be a pretty good deal. There's a lot of hearsay about Freddie Freeman and they're going back and forth on a 6th year on the contract. I say just give it to him at this point. I mean, if the deal doesn't get done in the next 12 hours or so, I don't think it's going to get done until the lockout ends, because that starts on Wednesday. So but that's kind of the lowdown for the Braves. So a lot of big deals today, but we'll talk about those in a minute.
Yeah, we'll get around to that. Mr. Schaefer, tell us about the White Sox land.
Well, we landed another reliever, which will be a good setup for Hendricks, assuming that Kimbrel's on his way out. The rumor is he's on his way to the Phillies here at some point. But no, I think most people in White Sox land are a little disappointed we don't have a second baseman yet, and we don't have an outfielder, and we're probably going to lose Carlos Rodon, and we don't have anyone to replace him. So people are getting impatient for sure.
Now, speaking of that, Dave, do we really see, we're going to talk about theories here in a second, but do you really see a challenger to the White Sox in that division anyways right now?
Good question. I don't think so. The Tigers are going to be aggressive, but I don't think they're ready yet. The Twins pretty much waved the flag. So yeah, that's a good point. But as I said, for the last 6 months, it doesn't do you any good to play a bunch of meaningless games in August and September and then run into the playoffs against teams and have to turn it on right away. It doesn't work. Yeah. So they got, I mean, the way that division's constructed, they should win it by 30 or 40 games.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I agree.
And they need to approach every game like it's, a crucial game, and, somehow create that urgency.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know that there's a lot of competition yet. The rumor on the street, and we'll get to this, is that the Tigers may land a big shortstop, but it doesn't matter if you win the division. If you can't go deep into the playoffs, then what,
the Tigers are the one to watch for sure. They've got some pieces in their pitching staff with Casey Mize and a few of the others that they've done. So they're the one to watch. It's just, I think it's a little too soon, but you never know. And if they could push them a little bit, then that's a good thing.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, Jackson, we're going to start with you. A lot going on. a lot of things. Tell me maybe one or two of the deals that you like throughout the league, and one or two of the deals that you don't like or just don't make sense to you.
Two deals I like. I'm gonna give a shout out to the small fan base of Seattle. The Seattle Mariners made two very good moves the past couple of days, trading for Adam Frazier for basically nothing.
Right.
From the Padres, nice controllable contract. He can slot in at second base from him. And they signed Robbie Ray, giving him another frontline starter. So I mean, Seattle can make some noise. You know, somehow every year they're competitive despite their pitching just absolutely being atrocious and their time hitting being absolutely atrocious. So you figure if they get some more good players in there, they can be a scary team. They can challenge Houston out there in the West. Oakland's pretty much punting is the general consensus. They might trade Chapman and Olsen. I mean, the Angels are there, but they're iffy. So it could be Seattle's turn to kind of just take a run at the division, even though Texas is spending a lot. I think Seattle has more of the formula for it. Moves that I don't like. Oh boy, I do not like that Corey Seager deal or that Marcus Semien deal by Texas. I thought they overpaid for both of them. Semien has a bit more of a track record than Corey Seager. Corey Seager has only finished top 10 in MVP voting twice. He's missed significant time with a hip injury. He had Tommy John surgery, I believe. I mean, he got hit with a pitch, so we kind of throw that injury out this last year. So the broken hand you can kind of throw out, but you could kind of label him as injury prone because he's only been in the league 5 or 6 seasons. And to pay him $30 million a year, kind of on par with a player such as Francisco Lindor, who before having an atrocious year this year, the Mets, when they gave him his extension, he's making $34 million a year. He has, I think, 4 or 5 top 10 in the MVP. Let's see, he finished. He's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's got 6 top 10 MVP finishes. 6 in a row. So I mean, I wouldn't have thrown the money at a guy like Corey Seager, especially on that long of a contract. Kind of just spells disaster. You don't hand those kind of contract out to older players. I'll refrain on the Mets because I always beat them down here on the podcast. I'll let somebody else talk about the Mets signings, but it's dangerous to give guys that big of a payday when they're kind of coming over the hump on the other side.
Yeah. Dave, what do you think? 2 deals you like, 2 deals you don't.
Well, I'll start with the 2 that I don't. I am not a Robbie Ray fan from watching him here in Arizona for all those years. Good for him for cashing in. I'm going to predict right now that it's not going to work out real well when he can't get out of the 5th inning week after week after week. And I don't like the Starling Marte. That guy's been on about 48 teams now, and there's a reason. There's a reason he hasn't stuck around anywhere. I think that was really going to burn the Mets. Couple I do like. Probably the under the radar stuff. We've talked about that before. And a lot of times it's these under the radar signings that really make the difference. I like Eduardo Escobar, so I'll give the Mets a good one on that. He's a little older now, but he can flat out play and hit. And I got to say, I like my White Sox coming up with Kendall Graveman there. Didn't overpay for him. He's going to get him from the 7th inning to the 9th inning most nights. So I like that one a lot.
Yeah, nice. Good calls. Jamie, what about you?
Being a Dodgers fan, I'm not very happy that Seager and Scherzer are gone. However, I'm very happy that the Dodgers did not pay the astronomical price for the 2 players. For one, I don't think Seager is worth it. That's a 10-year contract that I don't see the longevity, especially with Seager being so injury prone. And yeah, he is. I'm gonna call it as it is. He's injury prone. And Scherzer, I think he wants to go out kind of in a just kind of in a calmer atmosphere. And I think the Dodgers really made him work for the trade deal. They put him in as right off the bat as a starter. They probably overworked him. They didn't realize what they were getting and just how much he could go before he just petered out. And I feel really bad for that, but he's also a starting pitcher and he's one of the best. I don't think there's a record out there that could beat Scherzer's right now. So, good for him for getting that deal and going to the Mets. Am I happy about it? No. Am I happy for him? Yes, because yes, he gets to play the last 3 years probably of his career in a very calm atmosphere, more calm, much more calm than the Dodgers, in my opinion, because the Mets are not like a top tier team, in my opinion. I think they're kind of like a little bit mediocre, could have the potential, but I don't think Scherzer's going to make it there. So those are the two that I don't like. I'm actually very excited for the Rangers to get John Gray. I think it's kind of funny, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. And I think it's funny that the Rangers also got Marcus Semien. So the Rangers seem to be paying a lot of money for these players. And it's going to be very interesting to see what they do, if they can be contenders next year. And we'll see where it goes with that. But yeah, that's where I'm at. I honestly am very irritated at how much they have paid for players right now. And we're not even at the deadline and they've already spent $561.2 million on trades. And it's just, everyone out there is saying that the Dodgers pay the most for players. And it's just like, no, the Rangers are like, here, hold my beer. We got this one. So, just looking, I have like a whole bunch of notes from when I was going over this, just looking at the top 10 most wanted trades this year. There's still 5 that we're looking at. We're looking at Carlos Correa, Trevor Story, Freddie Freeman, Nick Castellanos, and Javi Baez. Those are the 5 that are still unsigned. That are still unsigned, that are in the top 10 of the trade list. Everyone else has been signed. So
That'll happen tomorrow.
I want to see where these 5 go.
Yeah, that'll happen tomorrow because of the CBA and the lockout, right? So everything that's been said, I agree with. I personally don't like the Seager trade. 10 years is an awful long time. Dave mentioned it before we got on the air that you kind of pay for that first 3 or 4 years and hope that somebody else will take that big contract away. So I don't like that. I think the Mets overpaid for Mad Max. I really do. It's not a Dodger thing. It's the guy's 37 years old and he was worn down in October. But I also don't think it seemed like he and Dave Roberts didn't get along. So that didn't surprise me that he wasn't. I thought he may be a Cardinal. Yes.
There's rumors out there that Scherzer didn't like that Bauer was coming back.
Oh, and that could be it too. And that's gonna hurt the Dodgers in the long run. Some of the trades that I do like, Dave, you mentioned it. Some of the guys that are under the radar. I don't like the Sterling Marte, by the way, and I agree he has played for 48 teams. I do like the Escobar thing. I do like some of the smaller ones. Robbie Ray is the most buff pitcher in the MLB, but that doesn't make him a good pitcher, right? And Jamie, you brought up a point. I'm more interested to see what happens. So I was talking to a Reds fan this morning, and he had said that Nick Castellanos wants to come back to Cincinnati, but he wants a 7-year deal. Explain to me where that guy's earned a 7-year deal anywhere in his career, right? I mean, Dave, will you take him in White Sox land for 7 years?
Well, explain to me how he's even number 8 in the top 10.
He had a really good season last year, and he's a good teammate.
But one
Dave, you're on
season
mute.
does not make the player. I'm sorry, it doesn't.
Yeah. Dave, you're on mute. You were trying to say something, I think.
I was just saying, explain to me how Javi Baez is even in the top 20.
He's got a great slide. He could slide around bases. That's about it.
And apparently he can steal first. So
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
a thing.
Yes, he can steal first.
Well,
Yeah, no,
when you can't hit, you need to.
that's true. Oh, okay. So we still got some names out there, and some of the Grays, we've already talked about them. But where do you guys think Jackson, where do you think any of these guys are going to go? Where do you think Correa is going to land?
Yeah, I think he might end up having to go back to Houston. I don't think anyone else will pay him. He might have to take a little bit less than what he's looking for. I don't think judging on what I last heard from the Yankees camp, is that they're going to kind of sign one of those stopgap shortstops to try to develop their young guys. So good on them for changing up their strategy after all these years.
Well, the Yankees have $1 billion that they're going to have to pay out next season anyways, if they're going to keep Stanton and Judge, right?
Yeah.
So why in the world would you even consider going after and paying a big shortstop, a big time shortstop?
Yeah. I mean, some of these guys are just asking for ridiculous money. I think it's ridiculous that Javi Baez commands the kind of money he does.
Yeah.
What
about Anthony Rizzo?
It's the same thing. I'm kind of that. I like the deep. If you really want to find what makes a player valuable, there's some stuff you can measure, some stuff you can't. For me, Javi Baez just doesn't get on base enough or drive in enough runs. He's one of those guys that'll hit a lot of home runs. He'll play flashy defense, but if you really dive deep into what he actually does, I just think he's one of the more overrated shortstops in the league.
And as Jamie says, he can steal first base.
I mean, only against the Pirates, but
yeah. I am shocked. Anybody else shocked at how much money got tossed around these last 2 days?
Crazy. It's crazy. And what Jackson just said, think about the money the Yankees have tied up in 2 corner outfield positions.
Mm-hmm.
That makes no sense long term. If you're going to tie up money, you put it into a stud pitcher, maybe a shortstop, somebody up the middle, but not a corner outfielder. I mean, if that's going to be their strategy, then they're screwed for a long time. Those guys can hit, but they're not going to win anything on their own.
Well, and one of those guys plays DH half the season, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the Yankees, there will be the Bronx is burning part 2 if the Yankees let go of Aaron Judge next season. And so then the question is, do you pay Giancarlo Stanton? And it's going to get weird. The Yankees are going to have the same problem that they had in 2007 when they got A-Rod. They can hit and score 10 runs, but they're going to give up 11 every night.
Yep. And they're trying to avoid the luxury tax. So
yeah. And arguably probably the most competitive division in the game, right? Where the Red Sox are trying to make moves and I mean, Orioles are out, but Toronto's trying to make some things happen, and just in Tampa Bay comes out of nowhere all the time.
Yep. So just think about them. If Corey Seager got $330 million, what's going to take to sign Correa?
That is a really good question. And with his track record, just as a person, is he worth it? Is he worth anything that anyone would pay him with his track record as a person? But you mentioned the Blue Jays. The Blue Jays just got Gausman from, or is it Grousman? Yeah, from the Giants. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, and he was very pivotal with, the postseason. So it's just, the Giants are doing exactly what the Dodgers are doing, but I think the Dodgers are doing it a little bit better because we don't build a team around one player or 2 players. We build a team around a team. So, with Posey retiring, which we know that's a fact, and then unloading these free agents, you're going to see a different Giants team out there And I don't see that with the Dodgers. I see the same feel of the Dodgers, even though we might be losing Scherzer and Seager. That's fine. As long as we can keep Kershaw and Taylor, I think we're gonna be okay. But I don't know. I don't know where Kershaw's gonna end up. And I have a feeling he's gonna be a Ranger by the end of the day.
He lives right by the stadium. He's already had conversations with them. They're going to pay him a little bit more than what the Dodgers are going to pay him. And let's be honest.
Super sad. That is super sad because when, even as a Giants fan, I was just like, Kershaw, Dodgers, Kershaw, and not having that Kershaw as like the, I don't know, the kind of core of the team. It's just sad.
Dave, this will take you back a bit, but do you remember where Willie Mays ended his career?
No, you got me on that one.
He ended up with the Mets. The Giants wouldn't pay him, and he ended up with the Mets. And there's a play, a very kind of infamous picture. I'll have to find it, but very infamous picture of him rounding third and coming to home and trying to score, I think on a ground ball to the outfield from second. And he gets thrown out by a country mile, and he thinks he's safe, and he's just laying on his knees and just looking up at the umpire, and he has this look on his face, and it's a sad picture because it's not Willie Mays that everybody knew.
Sure.
And to that tone, Clayton Kershaw may not be the Clayton Kershaw that we knew.
Oh, he's not.
And
he's not. You guys got the best years out of him. There's no question about that. Can he still eat up 100, 150 innings and keep, locked down a 4 or a 5 spot? Probably. But he's definitely not what he was. And I've talked a lot about, these teams need to keep their marquee players to keep their fans happy once in a while and not have this be just a revolving door. And he's a guy where, it's probably worth it for the Dodgers to pay a couple extra million to keep him around and lock down that 4 or 5 spot for him. I don't know if they will.
yeah. Because everybody, I don't think anybody in this group thinks that Clayton Kershaw won't be a pitching coach as soon as he wants to be, and or a manager for some club. That's a foregone conclusion. In fact, Dave Roberts should be watching his back, because if Clayton said, I want to take over, I can't see the Dodgers telling him no, right? But I agree with you, Dave. I'd like to see him as a Dodger. I'm fearful though that he's gonna go home and play for the Rangers.
Well, like everything else, it all goes in certain cycles. So there'll be somebody new that comes up from the minor leagues that'll hopefully take his spot for you. I think you ought to worry about Chris Taylor right now. That's where I'd be worried, because he's actually got some positive WAR that you're gonna lose if he goes somewhere else.
Yeah, no,
exactly.
I agree.
I want to keep Chris Taylor and put him as a starter and not just as a utility player. I think he's just underutilized right now because he is an outstanding player, and I feel as if that is what he's been holding out for, is he wants to be a starter, and that's why he's looking elsewhere.
Well, all he's got to do is look at Boston and Kike.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. And I said this on another Clubhouse with an Angel fan and a Mariners fan. They said, who's one Dodger that you want to keep? And I said, obviously I'd like to keep Seager, but I don't want to pay him, but I want Chris Taylor. That's the only free agent this season that I want to keep. Kershaw, obviously, for the fanfare, but give me Chris Taylor. We can, between he and Gavin Lux and Trey Turner, who will now go over to shortstop, right? And Freddie Freeman at first base when we get Freddie. That's a winning thing, right, Jackson? Freddie Freeman?
Yes.
Jackson's like, I heard that. I heard that. Oh man. Well, I'm shocked at the money. It frustrates me to no end, the money that was tossed around. I can't hear of an owner complaining about COVID and oh, we lost so much money, when they're tossing this kind of money around. Don't argue with me that you don't have money now.
Oh, specifically the Blue Jays. You're
Yeah.
in Canada. You're locked down practically, and you're spending 121 million. Really? No.
Well, you got to figure in what they saved on Semien and Ray too. So they didn't spend all of that.
True. Very, very true.
Yeah. So yeah, I'll be interested. The two that I'm interested in, the two that I think can be difference makers going forward, is one, Carlos Correa. If he goes someplace where he can kind of get away from that Astros, that cheating, that like mantra that's following him, whether or not he did or not, okay. But that'll be the first thing that I'm interested in. The second thing I'm interested in is, where does Nick Castellanos go? Because that guy can still contribute. I mean, Jackson, would you take him in your outfield?
Depends on if the Braves can re-sign the guys they already have. I don't see a need because Acuna will be back. Pache made some strides in AAA, so did Drew Water. So I think the best case scenario is getting the Soler, Peterson, Rosario rotation going again, just not to stop the young guys. I mean, for Atlanta at least, because their two top prospects are outfielders.
Didn't I read that they didn't tender Chuck Peterson and that he's a free agent?
Most likely, I think it was a mutual option. One of them declined.
Yeah, I think he declined the option because he can get a better contract.
Yeah, he declined a mutual option or something like that. But
now, where does he go? Right?
Yeah.
He's
I need an
got a lot of
outfielder.
pocket
I'm
at
not
that.
sure I want him, but I need an outfielder.
You don't want a guy that'll hit 35 home runs but hit 211 for you.
I've seen a lot of those kind of guys. They're very frustrating.
I'm sure Dave
And they can't hit lefties.
You're describing Dave's probably favorite White Sox player of all time, Adam Dunn.
Yeah. Not so much. Not so much.
Well, Dave, if your boy's ready, we've got an extra Dodger jersey. We'll put him in Chavez Ravine. We need a pitcher. So is he ready to go?
No, he needs to go to college.
Well, listen, we'll give him an $8 million signing bonus and $400 million over 10 years.
No, he needs to go to college.
He needs to go to college.
I totally agree with Dad.
here's what I want to see. I want to see Trevor Story on the south side. That's what I want to see. Trevor Story and Tim Anderson is my double play combination.
And you very well could see that.
That could happen, definitely.
You very well could see that. Okay, keeping this at least PG-13, I'm going to throw one last question out at you, and then we're going to do a round about, give me 20 seconds to 30 seconds about your feelings. Are you ready? And Jackson, we'll start with you. If you are a Dodger fan, how do you feel about Trevor Bauer coming back?
You know,
PG-13. Jamie, be careful.
Probably not happy because of all the baggage he carries now and how much he's getting paid. You know, you can't blame the guy for opting into a $40 million contract, but you can be upset that there's little to no Major League Baseball discipline on him. I mean, as a Braves fan, it kind of disgusts me that Marcell Ozuna only got 20 games. They just announced the suspension. It's a 20-game suspension for domestic violence, which is a joke. It's a farce. I mean, you got to be, you're a professional athlete. You should be a professional gentleman as well. You shouldn't be participating in these kinds of activities. You know, you should show up and play baseball and just, you know, I just think of the model baseball player is Mike Trout. He shows up, he plays baseball, he goes home, and people complain that's all he does.
Yeah. Do you know who I used to love when he played because of that? Tell me you don't love Dustin Pedroia.
Yes, yeah. Same thing.
Guy just laces them up, never an issue, plays hard, always goes home with a dirty jersey. And
Sun Devil.
I mean, wasn't that guy just a great athlete?
Yeah.
And
fun to watch.
because of injuries, that guy will go in the Hall of Very Good. He'll never go in the Hall of Fame. And it sucks. Because that's the type of player that you want to emulate. That's the type of player, Dave, that you would want your kid to look at and go, that's the type of athlete you want to be, right? Dave, Trevor Bauer, what do you think?
Well,
Jamie, I'm coming to
it's
you
funny.
last because
It's funny because before the season, my son's a right-handed pitcher. Before the season, he really liked Trevor Bauer and would have said my favorite pitcher. And it was because of the mound presence and challenging people and having fun on the mound. Now, I think regardless of whether he's guilty off the field or not, I think he's just a really, really bad teammate. He's just it's gone over to the other side where too much of the focus is on one guy. He brings too much negative attention. There's a lot of just garbage the rest of the team has to deal with without being paid to deal with it. And I think that is the biggest baseball problem right now. I don't even want to get into whether he's guilty or not, obviously poor judgment. He's guilty beyond belief, but that's the hard part is I wouldn't want him as a teammate right now.
yeah, too much baggage.
Yeah.
Jamie, PG to PG-13. You got 30 seconds, Jamie.
Only 30? No, actually, I'm very excited that there's a potential that he could come back because he is a phenomenal pitcher. What has been alleged of him doing and has not been proven, and I'm taking that out of the equation. And as a female, that's really big because this is a person who has been alleged to hurt another female we won't go into context. However, I'm looking at it purely as baseball. He has said some really interesting things about the umpiring when he was right before he was taken out of the lineup and he was putting out suspension. He was going after the whole pitcher being checked over for weird substances for pitching. So, and he was going into this really good dialogue like, hey, this is pitching, and I understand that past he could have been a better teammate. However, I don't think he has been in with the Dodgers long enough to know if he was a better teammate or not prior to coming to the Dodgers, if that makes sense. Because he was taken out so soon in the season, and now it's just kind of like it's blown up. We are now looking at a trial by media, and we all know trial by medias never work. And we have to rely on actual evidence and what that evidence is presented and decided in a court of law, not by public opinion. So that is my Trevor Bauer situation in a nutshell. And that's what I'm looking at. I'm looking at him as a player, not what he did outside of the field. I'm looking at him as purely as a pitcher.
Okay, that's fair enough. Trevor will like that if he hears this episode of the Clubhouse. Okay, 30 seconds. Dave, I'll start with you. Last question. Round the horn. What are you hoping the White Sox do? Or I should say, what are you hoping that your team does? And what would surprise you the most with the remaining free agents that are out there?
Oh, that's a good question. What I hope they do the most is plug in a top tier second baseman. I think that will make the biggest difference on a team, whether it's Trevor Story or somebody like that. So that's what I'm hoping for, and I think Sox fans would be happy with that. Surprise? I think, you guys are talking about Freddie Freeman. If he leaves Atlanta, I'll be shocked. I know money talks, but I'll be shocked.
Jackson, I'm going to finish with you. Jamie, what do you hope the Dodgers do? And then what would shock you?
I am praying to the good Lord Almighty that we keep Chris Taylor. Seriously, CT3 needs to stay. He needs a permanent position on our starting rotation, and he needs to stop being a utility player unless it's like in a severe pinch, and put him either at I want him in center field because I think he can command that role very, very well. And what was the other question?
What would surprise you? What's one player that surprised you?
I would be really surprised if we get Correa. And I've heard rumors, but of course they're just rumors that he could be wearing Dodger blue. I would be very surprised. I don't want it, but I would be surprised by it. That was the question.
Jamie, I'm with you. I desperately hope Chris Taylor comes back. I would be surprised, even though Freddie Freeman's a hometown boy, I would be surprised if he left Atlanta. It does, from an aspect of, I guess, playing in front of hometown fans, money does talk, those type of things. But he's done so good in Atlanta. It's such a positive influence in Atlanta that it's just like Clayton Kershaw. I mean, the Kershaw Foundation, he's got that ping pong tournament at Dodger Stadium every year. I mean, it's hard to not see him wear Dodger blue. But Jackson, why don't you finish this up tonight, and then I'll wrap us up with our top fans.
I mean, the wish list remains the same. It's just outfield depth and re-sign Freddie Freeman. I think you're doing a good job at getting overall depth. A lot of the fan base is restless with no Freddie Freeman contract yet, but got to trust Alex Anthopoulos. He obviously knows a lot more than we do.
Yeah,
judging by the moves he made. The thing I'd be really surprised with is the Angels acquiring Luis Castillo. I actually read an article today that the Angels are out trying to get more starting pitching after signing Noah Syndergaard. So Castillo, who reportedly is on a untouchable list for Cincinnati, is in the Angels' sights. So I'd be really surprised if they were able to pull off a heist like that, considering they don't have a lot of financial flexibility nor prospect capital. But I've seen weirder things happen.
Yeah, according to my buddy in Cincinnati, he thinks it's going to happen. So I don't know. Well, top fans, as always, I'm always appreciative to my friends Dave and Jackson and Jamie for joining us. This is the weirdest time of the year, I got to tell you. Santa Claus is getting ready to come to town, and people are just paying way too much for athletes. So I just don't know what to say here. But enjoy this. We'll do one more of these, one or two more before the end of the year, and we'll see what happens. And December 1st is D-Day. Jackson, what happens on December 1st?
The lockout. Hopefully not. Maybe they'll announce an agreement tomorrow. Just throw everyone off.
What do
Probably
you think that's gonna? Do you think it's gonna happen,
not.
Jackson?
They'll probably lock out. I mean, I should have mentioned this earlier, but I think that's why a lot of money is being thrown around. I think owners are trying to save money. They're probably banking on the fact that the CBA is going to be changed and they're going to have to spend more money. So
Yep. Well, as always, appreciate you guys. Subscribe, watch the video, make comments. Lots of changes that you'll be seeing on the site here coming up on Top Fan, including a Top Fan team store that will be available here pretty quick. So Top Fans, we enjoy you watching and hope you enjoyed it.